This episode of the Lukewarm Seat is brought to you by Savarina PR in conjunction with 44 Concierge.
The following is a TPC Network podcast.
Hey, my name is Eddie Läck. I'm a former NHL goalie, and this is the Lukewarm Seat.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Lukewarm Seat. Or if you're not listening to it this week, you're listening to last week's episode. Or if you didn't listen to the one before that, you're listening to 2 weeks ago's episode. Anyways, you're listening to the Lukewarm Seat. I'm Josh Ruckstall.
Oh, and I'm Rockstar Chris Cole. Sorry, I was confused by this timeline.
Well, for some people, this week's episode might not be this week's episode. This week's episode might be last week's episode or 2 weeks ago's episode.
Yeah. Don't make me rock in my chair. It squeaks.
How has your week been?
Oh, it's been amazing, actually. I had just a phenomenal week. That's my chair. I seriously though, I had a phenomenal week. I got to play a gig for the first time since March, which is super cool. It was very exciting. I get to play in a bar, play music. It was awesome.
How was that experience because of all of the recent pandemic and all those issues?
It was unique, actually. So I'm in a band called Flea Market Underground. That's just a cheap plug. I'm in a band called Flea Market Underground. We played at the Old Triangle Ale House here in Moncton, and it was a unique experience. So we were actually the last full band to play there before the pandemic. We played back in mid-March, and everything shut down. Like we played Friday, Saturday, everything shut down on Monday.
Gotcha.
Right. So
because that's the weekend where you guys had a show, the Friday, and you're like, and people were iffy of whether it would happen or not.
Yeah. I had an event, and then I had 2 nights of playing music, and by the end of it, I was dead. I honestly thought I was going to die. I'm pretty sure I lost 75 pounds. I found it though. So
I was going to say,
so we were actually the first full band to play the Old Triangle again. We did it without a drummer because nobody's allowed to dance. It's like living in Footloose. It's very bizarre.
I love that reference so much.
I actually made back on commentary one time. There was a guy who liked to dance, and the other guy stopped him in mid dance, and that's what I said. He's like the mayor from Footloose. It was pretty funny at the time. So anyway, so we were there. We the Old Triangle normally can seat, I would imagine they're probably close to 100, 150 people in the Old Triangle, and it's
so it'd be at 50%. So it'd probably be.
Well, that's where you run into an issue too. Is it's not even 50%? I don't think, because they can only have the tables 6 feet apart, right?
Right.
So they take reservations. If people get there and it's packed, it's full. It's full. You're not allowed to go to the inn, and they have no seating at the bar, like none of that.
Was it busy?
It was big. I mean, it was full. Like it was as many people as you could have. So it was decent, and people were singing along, and that's all we really asked for. They were singing along. Some people tried to dance, and the bar had to stop them.
Okay, so they had to stop them. Like legally, you're not allowed. It is Footloose. It's not like it was it's not like a unwritten rule. Like you're not supposed to dance. Like no, like if you start dancing, you're getting tossed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
My bass player for some reason invited some woman on the stage to sing a song with me, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna keep going because I'm like mid song, right? And whenever it's his microphone, he already had COVID once. He's probably fine.
He's the one with the autoimmune deficiency.
Crohn's, yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. So he was the one you were worried about going into all this.
Yes. He seems fine. So this week's actually going to be really weird for me this week coming, because I've been doing the live stream off the deck or in my living room or whatever since the shutdown. And we tried to do a live stream from Old Triangle, but the their Wi-Fi is in a really weird spot in the building, so we couldn't get a good enough signal. I know for next time what to do, but I have stuff to make that work. It was really, but yeah, it was super cool. A couple of my coworkers came out to hang out and listen to tunes, and what we did when we realized it wasn't streaming, we hit record and we put it up later on. I think I put it on our Facebook.
Instead of doing a live stream, you did it like a just a regular viewing party almost, and then it was
pretty much. Yeah, so it's still, I think, 3 hours 48 minutes. I didn't take out the half-hour breaks or anything, so because we take 2 half-hour breaks when we play the old triangle. And anyway, yeah, so we played, and I realized next week is going to be a whole different animal for me, because it'll be the first time in 15 weeks that I don't do a music live stream on Friday.
Do you have an actual gig on Friday?
Like this week. Because
so
I will be in St. Andrews.
That's right. You are coming to visit little old me.
Yes.
And we're gonna have some chuggies and do something with huggies, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I'm super excited. Like, that has snuck up on me. That seems like we made this plan like on week 1 of the podcast, and this is week 1, 2, 3.
This is our 5th.
5th. We've been doing this for 5 weeks. It's literally flown by. The time has flown by, and now I'm literally the same amount of episodes in weeks away from having a baby. And then I don't know how this thing's going to go on Sunday nights, because there'll be a child screaming, and I know my wife is very competent and can take care of the baby, and that's probably, she's going to help it more than I will, but it's what it is what it is. But we might have some screaming baby in the background, and I'll be like, I'm a new dad, so deal with it.
That's what happens. That's why we're a #DadPod.
We're a dad pod. Oh, that's our first merch, our shirt merch.
Yeah, #DadPod, man. I was so excited when I've been tagging everything on anything I do on my social. If people could see me right now, like the amount I talk with my hands, and then I see it and I'm making
you're doing the Jimmy Fallon hashtag when he's with Jonah Hill, the hashtag.
Yeah, like I don't realize it until I can see myself on camera how much I talk with my hands.
Well, we got to do Justin Collette's thing and not move our heads and.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Like, it's hard because we're on the internet.
I know, but we need to bring back what we learned last week into this week.
You know what we should do? We should do. You and I should both do that to like Remy. On Saturday.
I think Kirk would be the one that gets weirded out by it more.
Oh, maybe.
For those of you that don't know, we have friends named Remy and Kirk who are going to be at the party.
Yeah. It's all good.
Talking about Dad Pod.
Really quickly too, the Atlantic bubble, which means you have other friends who can come.
We were able to invite 2 other friends from Nova Scotia, which is
want to bring my
amazing.
Kids even more.
Oh, one of them will love that, and one of them will hate that.
Which one? Covey would love it. Oh yeah, Dave.
So speaking of Dad, this COVID-19 has been stressful on the family, and I
100%.
moved back to New Brunswick to take care of my dad, but my mom's off work, so she doesn't need me at their house taking care of him. So my dad and I go on little outings, and we do little things, and we've started. I cut his hair because I trained to be a barber way back when, and I cut his hair, and now I'm making memories with him like that. And every time I want to have him as a guest on our podcast just to hear like his life stories. We can save those stories, and I just want to record like all his life on my own, and have it as like an audio book of his life for like my children to listen to and my sister's children.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
And stories of his life told by him instead of having somebody else retelling stories that they heard from him. But it was awesome. This week I cut his hair, and I was asking him questions, and like. It's wild that some of the things that my dad is, well, he's like your age, Chris. He's in his mid 50s. So he talked about how he like how like just crazy things. How like when they were kids, they like the store would literally sell bows and arrows,
Right.
and there'd be
Yeah.
actual bows and actual arrows when he was a kid. And he got one right in the middle of the forehead and was out cold because he got a bow and arrow to the forehead. And like all his stories, like nothing. He's telling me how hockey related. He was working at a Becker's, which in Ontario is a convenience store, and all of a sudden, what's his name? Oh, not Wendell Clark, but wow, it's Toronto Maple Leaf, and I forget. Wendell Clark. We'll just say for namesake, Wendell Clark walked in, and he was telling me this for the first time. He was also telling me that like he got to meet Ric Flair when WWF went to his hometown, like way back when. All these things that like I never had heard in my life, just by sitting down and asking him questions like about stuff like that. And that was it's such a cool moment because I'm making these memories with my dad now that I'm going to be able to cherish and take with me for the rest of my life, just because he's telling me stories while I cut his hair.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Like, well, my father's birthday was actually this week as well, and the family and I, we decided that we would record a song for him. So my family, I get them to play music and stuff. It's
I make them make
I do.
music.
I do.
You sound like the Phantom of the Opera.
Hey, don't worry
Sing
about
for me, Christine.
No, no. So I don't know where I was going with that.
I'm sorry for all headphone listeners.
I imagine that was loud. I can't hear anything. But from me, I can hear Josh, unfortunately. So that's for the old joke.
That's gonna be the running thing for putting that music into the cricket sound into my joke last week. I'm sticking with it. It's gonna be a running joke that you're old on the podcast.
I understand.
Anyways, you made your children make music.
So my family and I, we sat down on the couch. My oldest played lead guitar. I played guitar and I sang. We sent this to my father for his birthday. My father turned 68.
Your dad had you when he was 18?
Amazing, right? Swear to God. So it's weird. Usually I'm the jerk on a podcast. So anyway, so we recorded.
I failed grade 10 math. That was quick math.
It's like grade 2 math. Of course it was quick. You should have. So we recorded. We did "Old Man" by Neil Young because the title reminded me of that.
Never heard of it.
What?
I've never heard of it.
Really?
I'm like musically uncultured. What you are to sports, I am to music.
Okay, well that's fair. Oh man, take a look at my life because I'm alive.
Okay,
like you.
okay, yeah, I've seen. Okay, but like
it's the one Jimmy Fallon did with Neil Young.
Okay, yeah, I know which song you're talking about now.
Jimmy
but like,
Fallon.
If we're talking about songs about dads, names are I'm terrible with. Zach Brown Band did one called "My Old Man." Dude, if you haven't heard it, you gotta listen to it. It literally will hit home every time you hear it.
No, that's awesome. As long as like, I find there's "Father and Son" by Cat Stevens, which is a great one, sung from the position of the father and the child, coming of age and stuff, and how they just don't understand each other, which is amazing. And there's "Cats in the Cradle," and if you do,
multiple.
If "Cats in the Cradle" hits home, I'm sorry, because it's sad.
But "My Old Man" is about a kid looking up to his dad at different stages in his life. So it's like him as a kid, and like he wants to grow up to be like his dad, and then he's working hard, and then he has a family, and then the last one is he's now the dad singing to his baby, hoping that they want to be like.
Okay, so it's like "Cats in the Cradle," only happy.
Exactly.
Or like that book, "I'll Love You Forever" by Robert Munch.
That's the first book we bought for the baby.
Of course it is, because that's a good book. You know what book I don't like?
What book?
A kid's book that I really dislike.
Clifford
is the one with the rabbits.
The rabbits. Franklin?
No, it's
The Velveteen Rabbit?
no.
Okay,
Anyway,
well,
it's
we're
like
not gonna win this game.
I love you to the moon. I love you all the way to the moon. I love you to the moon and back. And like the adult rabbit is always one-upping the other rabbit, like the baby rabbit.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
just
So
like,
you're reading the same thing, so you know it by heart by the end of it.
yeah, the
It's
rabbit's
like
just
there's a hole in the
jerk.
bottom of the sea. There's a hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a bump in the log and a hole in the bottom of the sea. Like that.
No. What's this stupid book
Um,
called? I'm gonna look it up.
Well, I've started. This is segueing into my next topic, which involves my dad as well. Is we like to I collect sports memorabilia, wrestling and hockey, and I've been collecting hockey cards, and my dad and I have been going antiquing it, and I went antiquing and I found. Do you remember maybe books weren't made out of paper when you were a kid; they were stone, but
You're laying it on thick this week.
I have to. It's gonna be the running joke. People, because they can't see you, they're
You're a
gonna think
monster.
you're way older than you actually are.
Guess how
So,
much
you
I
know-
love you. That's the name of the book.
Okay.
Guess how much I can't stand it. Drives me crazy. Anyway, go ahead.
You know those golden spine books? It's like golden. It's like the Disney ones. They're like
Yeah, they're
you know-
called golden books. Yeah.
golden books. So I found a bunch of those from when I was a kid, and I had to buy them. And I'm thinking now it's going to be a new like thing I want to do is I want to get a bunch of golden books because like there was like a monsters one where it was like a family of monsters and they encounter everyday like family problems. And anyway, so my dad and I we started collecting cards, and my dad's been getting some Toronto Maple Leaf rookies from when he was a kid. I've been getting just a bunch of Toronto Maple Leaf different things. And on YouTube we're going to start. I'll start showing off some of the cards, so doing some openings of some sort. We've got some things down the pipeline.
Little golden books. Sorry.
Little golden books, and things down the pipeline of that sort for our YouTube, where we'll open up some hockey cards, some whatever. We've got somebody
That's a
that's
great
going to hook us up with.
You know what I would like to do as part of that?
What?
I was just thinking, and it's one of those things where Chris doesn't talk it over first. He just all of a sudden it pops in his head. I have all of my old hockey, baseball, football, basketball cards. Like I have a giant bin full of them. I'm curious to go through those.
You should bring them with you, and I can help you go through them.
When I have to fit my family of 5 and a bunch of stuff in my van.
You have a van? You're fine.
That's a van. Yeah, I guess I could tie Clifford to the roof. Nailed it.
You don't even need to tie him. He's still going to move around up there.
Just open your mouth, Clifford.
It just creates drag.
Suction cup him to the roof of the car.
You know what I just realized?
Yeah.
We've gone all this time. We haven't said who our guest is yet this week.
Oh, my goodness.
We have literally been talking for 20 minutes, and we haven't said who our guest is. Our guest this week, former NHL player. You might have seen him play when he played for the Vancouver Canucks. You might have seen him play when he played for Calgary. You might have seen him play when he played for Carolina or New Jersey. We have goaltender Eddie Läck on the podcast this week, and I'm excited. This is like one of the ones where I have so many questions. This is like I said on the bench was a big get. This is another milestone big get for the pod.
This is a big one. I'll tell you who's really, really excited about it is my guitar player, Mike. You know Mike. Mike is a huge Canucks fan. He is a huge Canucks fan.
So yeah, we have Eddie Läck on the podcast. I've got tons of questions. You've got some questions. You're not really the sports guy of the podcast. You're trying, and I give you an A for effort for trying. That's like with the Stanfields episode. You definitely hit the ground running on that one. And last week's guest, you had more to talk about with the music side. I don't really have that forte though to bring to.
I had the weird questions too, which is amazing.
You had the weird questions.
Oh.
So which leads me to you just talked about you collected sports cards back in the day. Did you ever play sports?
I played baseball. I did. I was a really crappy pitcher, but I played baseball. I was a pitcher. And
what level? Like, how old were you when you stopped playing?
I really stopped playing at any. I was like 10 when I stopped, but So I didn't play, and then I just played for fun. I just played with my friends. So it was it was somewhat organized. So I did that. I never played hockey because I can't stop.
Hey, that didn't stop Luis Mendoza in Mighty Ducks. They put pop cans up in a wall.
That's true, yeah.
And he learned very quickly. And he was in junior hockey. So you played baseball, you weren't very good. You couldn't do hockey because you couldn't stop. This was the only two sports you played? You stuck with the music?
I did martial arts. Yeah.
Martial arts. Never really pictured you as a martial arts kind of guy.
Yeah.
What belt did you get to? I
was right into it. In the one I was in, it was called Judokai.
Krav Maga.
It was called Judokai, which was one. It was a big mixture of a whole bunch of different ones, and it was funny because it was a lot like what you would call like the mixed martial arts training now. Like it was very similar.
It was just basic MMA, like
guys do, because that's what we were all right into it, and I could actually do the splits back then. I was like 19.
I think if you busted out the splits now, that would be the greatest party trick. Better than last week's party trick, without a doubt.
I would die. I way back in the day when I was really, really into it, I could actually do the thing where you take your foot and you lift it up in front of your head and like touch it against the wall behind your head. Yeah. I was very flexible.
I have a belly that stops me from getting to a 45-degree angle.
I also have no feeling in my shins.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, so like, there's no feeling in my. We used to kill our shins because I had to break a baseball bat. Anyway, so yeah, I was really into it, right? And I got to in the one I was in, I was like 2 below a black belt, but it was like it didn't really mean anything. I don't know.
So
2 below whatever their black belt was.
My dad didn't want me playing hockey because he knew I was soft like 2-ply paper. So he definitely was like, not putting this kid in hockey. I wanted desperately to play hockey. I played a lot of road hockey. I was a goaltender for road hockey.
I did play a lot of road hockey on my rollerblades.
I didn't do rollerblades, and I played goalie because you didn't have to run. So I was a goalie, so I can definitely...
My best friend played goalie when we were kids, and he's also very close to Mike. He played goalie because he had a helmet.
I played goalie just because I didn't want to run. And I didn't have a cup. I didn't have a cup. Never wore a cup. I'm lucky I can have kids. That's all I'm going to say. Kids, make sure you wear protection on the sports field and off of it.
I don't know if lucky that you can have kids is the... Well, you don't know yet. You'll find out.
You're evil. And I played soccer. Mainly, I grew up playing soccer, and I just
because you and my oldest would kick it around every once in a while when I'd bring the ball.
I think we put the ball over the fence a couple of times. But yeah, I was on the traveling soccer team, and like funny, like I was not even thinking about this, and I just had like a memory pop in my head. One time, like I played traveling team soccer from 13 to 15, traveling team soccer, and this is the kid that didn't want to run. So I played traveling team soccer, and we were in Montreal for a tournament, and I kneeled down. So like kick level height, like knee, like to use your knee for hitting the ball. I kneeled down to use my head, and another player kicked me square in the face. And I dropped, and I just laid there because soccer, you're allowed to. Soccer, if you even get brushed up against, you can drop down, writhe on the ground. I legit got soccer cleated in the face, dropped. My dad goes, you know what? You need to start acting more like a hockey player. A hockey player would have just walked right to the bench and just shrugged it off. I was like, okay, Dad, remember I'm soft. I'm literally Charmin here. Like, cut me some slack. And I didn't even think about that when I was going to mention soccer. But so my first ever goal I scored that one year I played traveling team soccer was like the third last game of the year. And we weren't going anywhere because our team was awful. So we were like, oh, what, any Disney movie about a sports team, but we didn't turn it around.
Right. That sounds like my ultimate Frisbee team as an adult. I played ultimate Frisbee.
So my team scored. I thought I touched the ball, apparently I didn't, and I found this out like 2 years later.
Sorry, my cat just bit me.
That's okay. So I thought I scored my first goal, and I celebrated so hard and so passionately because I thought I scored. And that at 14, and my buddy was like, just give him the goal. Like, clearly he wants it more. I've scored like 40 this season. Like, he can have the goal. I got a yellow card for celebrating too hard. And like, I had never scored, and this is like the biggest accomplishment I've ever made in my life in soccer. And I got a yellow card because I celebrated too hard. I like hockey celebrated. I guess in soccer you're just supposed to be like, yeah, I did it. That was me. I did it. I put it in the net. I'm not a man. I did it. And no, I was like, woo, like jumping up and down. I did the slide. I TV soccer celebrated and got a yellow card.
That is amazing.
So that's our stories for the week. We did half-hour stories. Now we're going to go to This Week in History, which is one of my favorite, literally my favorite segments of the pod.
I've really been enjoying it, for a young guy.
And I don't even tell you what I'm picking because I'm in charge. This is my segment. Actually, it's my segment for a dad joke, and I got a good one.
It's my turn for a dad joke this week.
No, you had it last week.
Did I?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So, This Week in History. I thought this one was very apropos. In 1832, the first American case of cholera epidemic was reported in New York City.
Oh, wow. 1832.
1832. All right, Chris, we're going to the music charts, and I'm going to ask you a question. In 1987, what was the number one hit from June 27th to July 10th?
June 27th, July 10th, 1987.
I'll give you 2 hints.
Oh, good.
Would you like your first hint?
Yeah, because that's really hard. Like,
female artist.
Okay.
And Kevin Costner.
So it's Whitney Houston, and it would be "I'll dance with somebody."
Yes, this is the first week you've gotten. Did you like the hints?
It was good.
It was good.
Considering, like, 1987 is the only song I could think of by her, so that worked out.
Well, imagine if it was the Bodyguard song. That would have been even better, but...
That would have been 1991-ish. I don't know, sometime.
In 2007... Okay. So, to me, this seems like it was a lifetime ago, but 2007, Apple released its first mobile phone, the iPhone.
Correct.
I'm on an iPhone. I've literally had iPhones since about 2008, 2009.
And actually, 2001, I believe it was the last week in 2001, was when they introduced the iPod.
Yes, it was. Wow.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Your memory. It's crystal clear.
I have a friend who sends me I got kicked in the head. I have a friend who, oddly, not by a guy who says he gets kicked in the head. I took many guitars to the head. I have a friend who does trivia, and I often play with him. And when I don't, he'll text me questions. If I can't play, like I think he's technically cheating, but he'll text me questions when I can't play it. I'm just like, oh, that's like, one of them was the iPod question. What was another one? It's funny because I can't remember.
And that's funny because we mentioned that last week.
Yeah.
Like, it was like literally in our episode. I didn't even clue in that I did that. And then my last factoid, which will lead into a segment that we've been changing on the fly, but it's about film and movies, is 2012, one of my funny movies that I thought was funny when it came out, and one of your favorite movies of all time was released in theaters. Ted and Magic Mike were released in theaters in 2012.
In all seriousness, Magic Mike's an amazing movie, so it is actually. I know you're being silly, but that movie's awesome. Magic Mike.
My wife couldn't even watch 10 minutes of it.
What? It's all guy jokes, right? Like it's a movie.
It's got Kevin Nash.
It's a movie that tricks you into thinking it's like a movie for women, but it's really a movie for guys.
The only thing I remember
100%.
from that
You
movie
need to watch it again.
is I don't know if it was the first one or the second one, but Joe Montaglio
Mhm.
dancing in a convenience store for the
Yes.
clerk to get his confidence back.
Yeah. So funny. That movie is. Think of it. If you go into Magic Mike thinking this is Pitch Perfect, like this will be like Pitch Perfect, it's a whole different experience. It's just going in and realizing, wait a minute, this movie's supposed to be stupid. That's when you realize
Not like
movie's
Ted.
amazing.
Not like Ted stupid.
No, Ted's terrible.
Okay, which leads us into the new segment. So this week, Chris, I want to talk about a movie that was amazing way back when, but hasn't stood the test of time. And we thought it was hilarious back then, and it just, you watch it now and you're just like, how did I ever think this is good? You can say one bad one, and you can give me one good one.
I have been pondering this all day, and my good one actually leads into another segment. So I'll wait. My good one will be after.
Okay.
I'm doing
Do
hand
you want me to go
signals
first
again.
then?
Why don't you
Do you want me
go
to go first? Okay, so I'll go first. My one that has not stood the test of time is Scream. Not Scream, Scary Movie. Scary Movie is awful.
Oh yeah, bad movie.
But when I was a kid, when I remember watching it when it came out. How old were you when it came out, probably, Chris? It was probably about 2003, 2004, so you were 30?
That movie came out in 1999, first of all, the first scary movie. Maybe 2000, but I'm pretty sure it was 99.
I think it was 2000 because I remember.
I would have been 19.
So that movie
You
for
would
me
have been
is
what?
one that, like, I was like...
2.5?
That and Jackass. I remember thinking they were hilarious when they first came out and, like, getting like a bunch of people together and watching them and giggling, but like now you watch it and you're just like, how did I think this was funny? Like this isn't that funny at all. This is weird and dumb. But the movie that I like thought was amazing and great when it came out, and you watch it now and it hasn't changed at all, is White Chicks.
White Chicks is an amazing. It's hilarious.
It's a movie that you're like you don't think of right away, but you watched it when it first came out, and everybody watched it. Like that's like the Wayans brothers' best movie. It went downhill from there. Like Little Man.
Whoa! Slow down. You mean like Marlon and?
Yes, those two.
I was gonna say Major Pain is the best Wayans movie.
No, but for those two brothers, because they stuck together.
Yeah.
One brother went off and did that family TV series.
That was Sean, right? Sean and Marlon were the two.
Yeah, Sean and Marlon. They did like Little Man. They did the scary movies. White Chicks, best movie they literally
fantastic
ever did, and it is the dumb humor, but it stands the test of time, and it still makes you laugh to this day.
And Vanessa Carlton in the soundtrack, and Terry Crews.
Terry Crews loving Vanessa Carlton.
The funny thing is, would they be able to do that movie today?
That is a different,
That's a whole other conversation. I just thinking about it. It's like, I don't know if they could. Like the uproar from. Anyway,
I don't know, but that's a different. That's not what we're. Yeah,
that's for a different show.
The movie itself, great movie,
hilarious movie.
I laugh every time. I know the jokes are coming. Your mama's so old, her breast milk is powder. You breastfeed like this, and then powder flows everywhere. I like bust a gut every time. So those are my two. What is yours, Chris?
So in 1986, a
movie or a good movie?
This is the one that didn't stand the test of time. In 1986, a movie was released, and this movie got a sequel. Like this is like blockbuster. It was a Steve Guttenberg movie. Had Steve Guttenberg in it, and
I don't know who that is, but
you don't worry about it. Police Academy.
It was anyway. 5 years before my time.
So Steve Guttenberg, he's a Canadian, just so you know.
A comedian or Canadian?
Canadian comedian.
Okay.
So both.
Is he the one that does voices from Police Academy? That's all I remember. There's the one that does voices.
No. No. No.
Okay.
No. So,
Cool.
so anyway, it's this movie called Short Circuit, 1986, about a robot
Is
named
that the little robot?
named Johnny Five. And when I was 6, 7, 8, even 9, I thought this was like the greatest movie ever of all time. Johnny Five is alive. I actually have a T-shirt that I got, and I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's the scene from The Shining where Jack Nicholson chops through the door, and he goes, "Here's Johnny," and it's Johnny Five, and in the background it's two Wallies holding hands instead of the twins. It's amazing. So yeah, Johnny Five, Short Circuit. I tried watching it again. Probably around 10 years ago now. I tried watching it again. That movie real bad.
Oh yeah,
Like real bad.
I tried to watch it once. It lasted 5 minutes. As soon as you said
I've only ever shut off 3 movies.
Batman and Robin is one of them. Has to be.
Nope, made it through.
What? I know people that have walked out of this theater when they went and seen Batman and Robin.
I can pride myself. I can sit through almost anything. I actually really like bad movies, like B movies, like really, really bad movies like one called Raw Force. One of my favorite all-time scenes, this guy comes in with an axe to chop this guy who's at a computer, and then it's like straight up just cuts to a pillow, and it hits the pillow, and he goes, "Ow." Like with that time behind it, it's like thump, ow. And then someone, like you could see someone throwing fake blood on it. It's amazing. Anyway, I turned off Laser Mission with Brandon Lee. Is one of them. One of them was so bad I don't even remember what it was. And the other one was Team America.
That was a bad movie.
I can't stand that movie.
So a movie that didn't get the mention in bad movies that didn't stand the test of time is Joe Dirt. I don't think it would have stood the test of time.
I'm going to be watching it again soon, so I'll let you know. That'll be part of my segment for next week.
Also, the movie I'm going to watch this week to see how it stood is Mr. Nanny.
If you're like me, I love.
Okay, but I'm not a Hulk Hogan. I'm not a Hulkamaniac.
Either am I. But I watch Mr. Nanny at least 3 times a year. I love it.
I always thought that the
Urban
bad
Commando
guy was
too.
Raven. I always thought that the bad guy was Raven. For as long as I can remember, I thought the bad guy was Raven.
Nope.
I want to say, quote the Raven, nevermore, every time. Anyway, but your good movie. Your movie that has stood the test of time.
So stood the test of time. This won't be a surprise to anyone. 1987, The Princess Bride.
4 years before I was born.
So The Princess Bride, it's actually my all-time favorite movie. I have a tie, that and another movie. And the reason I'm actually bringing up Princess Bride, besides the fact that it's absolutely an amazing film, I don't think I've ever watched it with anyone who didn't like it.
It's my I'm sick movie, for sure.
Yeah.
It's my I'm not feeling well.
Oh, my I'm sick movie is...
We've already gone over it.
Dang it. Did we?
I can't remember what it was.
Wedding Singer.
Yeah, it was an Adam Sandler movie, yeah.
Wedding Singer, yeah.
And I said that's not the best Adam Sandler movie, that's 51st Dates, and you said I'm a liar. But, so...
Oh, right, yeah, I forgot when you were wrong that time.
Princess Diaries.
What? Did you say Princess Diaries?
Whatever, it was Princess Bride. Same
thing. Princess Bride. Although, I mean, I could talk about the Princess Diaries too, but
I love that movie.
Nothing not to like.
I literally, my wife and I watched it like 2 weeks ago. Love that movie, but we're veering far left.
my wife and I are rewatching the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series right now, and we're almost into that point where you have to watch an episode of Angel and an episode of Buffy to make it work. So focused. So that segues me into my next topic, though, and my topic is have you seen this new streaming service? All about these shows are all 10 minutes or less. Is the gimmick, and it's called Quibi, Quibi, not a sponsor.
No, but I've seen like people like Anna Kendrick with like where she's like best friends with like a sex doll
or whatever.
Yeah, and like. So I've seen like little clips, and they've literally been on every ad for YouTube or Facebook. Any video I watch has a Quibi ad, but I've never actively subscribe to them because I'm literally subscribed to every service.
Yeah, me too. I have a problem. No, that's not it. Hold on. I'm just gonna make sure I have this correct. That's not it either. That's my other story. There it is. So Quibi are about to do star-studded, like a whole bunch of names, including. It's going to be done. The director is going to be Jason Reitman.
Yep.
Or Reitman? I think it's Reitman, right? But Joe Jonas, Sophie Turner, Common, Tiffany Haddish, Neil Patrick Harris, David Burka, Chris Pine, Annabelle Wallace, Hugh Jackman, Jennifer Garner, Elijah Wood, etc. John Hamm.
Who's going to play Andre the Giant's character?
We don't know yet.
Because okay, have you seen?
Probably could have kept looking. Someone tall, I imagine.
Have you seen the documentary on HBO about Andre the Giant?
It makes me cry.
But like that, they got all the actors that were in the movie with him, and they interviewed them, and they're like, he was like so frail, and like he literally couldn't pick up the main chick from Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Like he was that like he's a grown man wrestler. He couldn't hold her body weight.
He was at the end right there when you really get down to it. So Quibi is redoing all of the scenes from The Princess Bride with other actors. They're kind of like an homage to The Princess Bride because everybody's agreed a remake should never be done.
Yeah, so but they're going to remake scenes?
This is going to be scene remakes, and it's going to be an homage to The Princess Bride.
Is it going to be kind of like College Humor-like remakes, like what they did with the Batman, but like they kind of like rewrote it to make it College Humor? Do you remember what I'm talking about when College Humor put out like the Batman? He's like, he stabbed him. He's like, "Where's Rachel?" And it makes a bunch of sexual innuendos while he's being stabbed.
No, it's
and
not
like
that one.
Bane's like,
it's funny though.
"You'll never defeat me, Batman."
That's really like, good. I'm proud of you.
Bane has no voice, but for some reason, the Christian Bale Batman, Bane has a voice, and it's the worst voice ever. Like, use Tom Hardy's real voice. The dude's scary.
Bane has a voice.
No, not in the original. Not in the original series. He doesn't have a voice. He's
but he wasn't in the comics. He did.
No, in the comics, his first appearance, he doesn't have a voice.
Well, maybe in his first appearance. Anywho,
he's literally got a box and he doesn't talk like this.
Well,
like,
no, he
who thinks a roided out man who talks like this is scary?
He's Spanish, right? So he doesn't speak English. Is his
yes,
thing.
But he sounds like Yoda.
Break the bat, I must.
Told you once I did the bat. but so okay,
the horse Batman.
So that's awesome that they're going to remake these scenes.
I think it's going to be great. It looks like it's going to be fun. It's a lot of fun actors and stuff. Like
that makes me want to subscribe to this series and see what it's all about because everyone gives you a 30-day trial.
And Josh Gad is in it. And as we know,
love him.
Josh Gad is a treasure.
Josh Gad is like, okay, you literally I think you could slide him into our podcast, fit perfectly. He is like us, but famous.
So have you seen his series? He's basically getting actors from movies that he loves to reunite. Have you seen that? So he just did, Back to the Future.
Ghostbusters?
He did Ghostbusters, Back to the Future. He just did Ferris Bueller's Day Off. My mind is blown.
How did they age? I haven't seen that one.
Well, I mean, good, I suppose. Rich people usually age pretty well.
Fair, but not everyone became like. What's her name from that movie that went into Dirty Dancing? She like quit acting altogether.
Oh, Jennifer Grey. She's beautiful, man.
Dirty Dancing, great movie. But we need to move off of movies.
Right.
We need to
go on more. To. I have one more.
Go. Sorry, go ahead.
I sent you this. So now Josh Gad being a treasure, Ryan Reynolds is a national treasure for Canada.
He's a Canadian treasure.
Canadian national treasure. So they did.
My wife is like one step away from. She's ran into him on an airplane. He bumped into her with a baby carriage while she was sitting in the plane, and he's like, "I'm very sorry," and she's like, "You can literally do whatever you want."
You want to make,
yeah. She's like, "You could have hit me, and that's okay. You're like the nicest man on planet Earth." And I'm like, "But this is the guy that like starred in Waiting. Like how did he end up? But like, okay, think about it logically though. How does he go from Waiting, which is like the Dane Cook of that generation?
And Dane Cook was in Waiting.
I know, but he was awful. He is awful. Awful. Hot take.
He was great in Employee of the Month. Anyway.
No, that's all. Dax Shepard carried that movie. Don't you dare.
He was still good in that movie. So
he was so good.
So good. Focused back on my story because we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
And we got to get to your stories because I'm sure those are important.
I have no stories. This is literally, we have the YouTube video of the week and then we go into our interview.
Good.
So finish your story.
All right. So the cast of X-Men came together.
The original cast or the new cast?
The original cast.
But he got the original cast back together. No, was that the original or the new cast for Deadpool 2? When he shows up in the mansion, he's like, there isn't even any X-Men here. And then, like, they close the door and there's, like, the Beast. And, like, they're all there. And he's like, like, this movie sucks. You guys can't even have the budget to get the X-Men? And, like, they all made the cameo and they closed the door. Like, so it's the original X-Men. So it's Halle Berry.
Kelsey Grammer is Beast. If it was the original.
He played Beast?
Yeah.
And then you have...
But this isn't what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So they did one of those Zoom things like Josh Gad is doing. And it was... I got to open it up here. Hold on. I've got it right here. Because I forget people. So it was the original cast. Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, Patrick Stewart.
Who was the dude that went on to do every...
Famke Janssen's there.
Who's the guy that was Cyclops who went on to do every female romance?
He wasn't there. Jason Marsden. Jason Marsden. He wasn't
went
there.
On to do every chick flick ever.
So Hugh Jackman's there. Hugh Jackman got them all together, and he's like, "Hey, we're all together, yay!" And then all of a sudden, bloop, Ryan Reynolds, which is just amazing. And then all of a sudden, some of the new cast pop up. So the guy who plays Professor Xavier now.
I'm not going with names, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
James McAvoy, the woman who from Game of Thrones who plays Dark Phoenix. She pops up, and all of a sudden people start disappearing, and it's just Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds left. And their bromance is just the greatest thing in the world to me.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds with any person one-on-one, it's hilarious.
But those two, their chemistry is so just amazing. And then all of a sudden, Ryan Reynolds goes, this is almost, this is almost a reunion of now with just the two of us here. And then all of a sudden pops up Liev Schreiber and he goes, X-Men Origins! And it ends. It was just amazing. It was so good. So if you have a chance, look up the X-Men Reunite, Ryan Reynolds crashes the X-Men reunion. It's mind-boggling.
When he, at the end of
Schreiber
Deadpool,
showing up was just great.
When at the end of Deadpool 2, when he's going off killing all of, other types of Ryan Reynolds throughout time, and he's just like, just clean up the timelines. Don't mind me, because that first Deadpool was bad.
Oh yeah, well they did it wrong. So Joshua,
YouTube video of the week. We talked about this. It's going to be debuting on Disney Plus. Not a sponsor. Exciting. # not a sponsor. But Disney Plus, sponsor us. Not a sponsor. Is posting Hamilton, the full Broadway show of Hamilton. And they released a preview of the main song, Alexander Hamilton, and it is literally breathtaking. This video is amazing.
It feels like a movie. I know, because what we discussed this, they filmed it. It was 3 different performances, and they filmed them, and it really, the preview makes it feel like it is filmed on studios, in a studio. Yeah. Just mind-boggling.
It's amazing. Check it out. It's on Disney's YouTube. I know they don't need our plug, but I just watched it and was in awe, and just thought we had to bring it up because we talked about it in previous episodes because we like making the full circle here. And probably on the next episode, we'll talk about what we thought of the actual the show.
Yeah, 100%. That and Joe Dirt.
And I'm gonna watch Mr. Nanny.
I love Mr. Nanny. I'll do it. I'll watch Mr. Nanny, Suburban Commando, and Olds Bard right back to back.
You're off for the summer now. You can do that.
More than once a year. I will do it for fun.
So we're gonna go to some advertisements, and we're gonna be back with former Vancouver Canuck goalie Eddie Läck. Stay tuned.
Hey fans, we know you're on Twitter and you're on Facebook. You're on social media getting breaking news the minute it happens. Well, good news, so are we. Innovative Hybrid Wrestling has social media covered. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. We post everything you need to know about Innovative Hybrid Wrestling, so make sure you're following us so you're the first to get the inside scoop.
At Spin-It Records and Video, we pride ourselves on having some unique and really cool items and attractions. Come in and check out our classic arcade. Our gift cards available in $5, $10, and $20 denominations. When you're here, go see our movie rental section sporting 35,000 DVDs, over 2,000 Blu-rays, including a large selection of Francophone films, and a huge selection of video games for rent. Make sure you check out our vinyl section. We have more vinyl than you can shake a stick at. For more information, go to spin-itrecords.ca. We're at 467A Main Street in Moncton, open 7 days a week. Video store 10 to 10, record store 10 to 8, Sundays 12 to 5. I love to read comic books, and man, do I love playing board games. That's why I go to Comic Hunter. Comic Hunter has Atlantic Canada's largest selection of comic books, graphic novels, board games, and manga. Plus, they have toys, action figures, statues, and much, much more. ComicHunter.net has a blog and Magic the Gathering web store. Events every single night, Dungeons & Dragons, Magic the Gathering, board games, Star Wars X-Wing, and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, they have mangas, buy 3, get 1 free, used graphic novels, buy 1, get 1, plus the dollar bin of comics, thousands of comic books, up to 50% off the more you buy. Check out ComicHunter.net. They have a knowledgeable staff, plus Matt Surrett's there too. Open Monday to Friday 10 to 10, Saturday 10 to 9, Sunday 12 to 6. Location is Moncton, 467 Main Street, Suite 300, and in Charlottetown, 181 Queen Street. That's right, Comic Hunter, where heroes come to play. For all your hauling needs, call Brace & Son Enterprises, TPC Network's newest sponsor. Call them at 506-381-8178. They haul material, and in the winter, they do snow plowing and snow blowing. Call Brace & Son Enterprises.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with our guest this week, former NHL goalie Eddie Läck. Welcome to the podcast, Eddie.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. So we got to start with the tale as old as time question. How did you get into hockey?
So Sweden beat Canada in the '94 Olympics final, and that's when I kind of decided that was a year where there was no NHL players, but I saw like Peter Forsberg and Tommy Salo were coming up, right? So like those were my two like childhood heroes, right? And I watched them play, and I was six years old at the time. I just wanted to try it out, and I loved it.
So I don't know if that was meant to be like a dig at us. We're Canadians here, and you just was like that knife, just like twisting it a little bit. So you grew up playing hockey since you watched that Olympics, and you're like, I need to play hockey. You played hockey. You played in the Swedish Hockey League, and you went undrafted in the NHL. And you were. Can you explain what that process was like? Were you thinking you were going to get drafted? Were you?
No, like I didn't really think about it too much. I mean, goalies take like a way longer time to like develop and everything, and like I knew that if I was ever gonna play in the NHL, it had really nothing to do with how good I was at 18 or 19 years old. So my focus was just like to play good with Leksand in like the Swedish second division there, and like do as well as I can, right? And like just to keep working on my game and everything. And then I heard that, I think it was Atlanta that was like kind of interested. They might draft me, they might not, right? And I don't really think that would have made like a difference, like one way or the other, right? So yeah, I mean, it's like the super talented goalies that get drafted in like the first or like the second round. Like those are the only goalies that I almost feel that you should draft, right? Because like it's really tough to just know with goalies when they're 18, like if they're going to be good later on, right?
Well, and you look at the guys like Carter Hart, who literally just walked right into from junior to the NHL, and that never happens. Like, it's very rare. He's like one of those exceptions that you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And like he if I don't miscall, he struggled a little bit in like the American League to start it too, right? But so goalie is just one of these positions where you don't know, and obviously everyone knew just looking at Carter Hart that he was going to be a stud, right? But we do take a little bit longer time than players to develop.
So you're undrafted, and then at the age of 22, you get the call that the Canucks want to sign you to a 2-year deal. Can you tell us like what kind of feeling that is? Was it almost like like you came out of left field, you didn't know it was coming, and you were just taken back by it?
Yeah, so I played that year. I played with Jacob Markstrom in the Swedish Elite League, right? And I was his backup, and I was hurt a little bit in like the beginning of the season, like knee injury too. So I only ended up playing like 14 or 15 games that year, and like I thought for sure that I was gonna have to be at least one or two more years in Sweden and like prove myself before signing somewhere, right? And then Vancouver came and they pretty much just gave me like 24 hours to like decide, and like the thought process was basically like I can go right now and spend like 3 years in like the minor leagues before I get a chance, or I can go like 1 or 2 years from now and I probably still have to spend like 2 or 3 years in the minors, right? So I just wanted to come over here like as soon as possible and like get used to like the big rink and everything. So yeah.
Now, did you notice a change in style from the Swedish Elite League to the AHL? Because the AHL, many people refer to it as the jungle. It's a very rough and tough league compared to the NHL, and it's where guys are trying to get noticed. Did you find it a difference in play style coming from the Swedish Elite League to the AHL?
Yeah, just like first of all, with like the amount of games that I played, and like just going from playing like 14 15 games the year before to playing, I think I played like 53 games or 54 games the next year, right? So that was definitely like something that I had to like get used to, and like recovery and eating right and everything, right? Like that's just part of being a professional and just growing up. But like living by myself for like the first time in like a different country, that was like an adjustment for sure. And just looking at, I think that the AHL has gotten like a lot younger, like these past 5 or 6 years. Like when I came up, there was still a ton of veteran guys playing there. Like every team had like the five or six like max that you could get, and like teams were trying to win then, right? Like now the more that I look at the AHL, like the more I think that it's just like a development league and like giving guys a chance to like develop at their own pace, right? So I definitely had like a rude awakening when I first came over.
Was there a language, like, was there any trouble with the language barrier as well, coming from Sweden to the AHL?
No, like I was the only Swede on my team when I came to, so I was kind of like thrown into it. So I've always spoken like pretty good English growing up and everything, but just like the first like month or two when I was over here, like listening to guys talk and everything, it's like, oh my god, like slow down, guys, like it goes so fast. But yeah, just I lived with Chris Tanev and Jan Sove my first year when I played in Manitoba, and that kind of just like forced me to speak English when I was at home too, and not just like FaceTiming my family and friends from back home and like keeping the Swedish, right? So I learned very fast, and I was like really happy that I was like the only Swede on my team, because that kind of forced me to grow up too.
Right. I've heard some stories of guys who from a different country, and they've used like Friends to learn English because that's the only way they can learn English. And I think there was like Ilya Mikheyev from the Toronto Maple Leafs this year, and he watched Friends to learn English. So,
Yeah.
but that
The
year,
show Friends, I
the
guess.
show Friends, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The year
grew up with that too.
So there was the lockout shortly after you got signed to Vancouver, so you were really stuck in the AHL with no attempt to be called up to the NHL. And after that, you were the backup for Roberto Luongo. Can you talk to me what it was like being called up to the big show and being in the big arenas now and being at the center of everything in Vancouver, where they're rabid for their hockey? Because that would have been shortly after their playoff run, right?
Yeah, so basically my first contract was a two-year contract, and when that ran out, then the lockout came. So right before the lockout started, I signed a 2-year deal, which was a 2-way first year and 1-way the second year. So I knew once like the second year came around, like they had to do something with either Schneids or Lou, right, to make room. So just when I first got called up and everything, or like I started that season and I was like pretty sure that I was gonna stay there, because it was like me, Lou, and then there was a younger kid coming from Sweden actually, but that was his first year. But yeah, just the difference between everything around, like the food you get, like the way you travel and everything, it's just like such a big difference from the AHL, right? And just being part of like the Canadian market and everything was so cool with all the fans and everything, right? So yeah, Vancouver was definitely like the place that I enjoyed the most.
Chris, do you have anything?
I do. I was muted there for a second. Yeah, so back to the Luongo. Now, one of my dear friends is a huge Canucks fan. He just wanted me to ask about the bromance on Twitter that you and Luongo had. Like, how did that come to be, I guess?
I don't know, like that just pretty much happened naturally, I think. I mean, we both are pretty like similar personality when it comes to like being in like the locker room, and we can joke around a little bit and like not take each other too seriously, right? So we bonded pretty well there, I think. And then when Lou started blowing up on Twitter with this trombone and everything, like, and man, like it took me a long time just to like confirm there was actually him, right? Because it was like years where he was tweeting stuff, and everyone was like, "Hey, is this Luongo or is this not Luongo?" Right? And I think it took like another 2 years before I
It
actually
was just like
asked like the question, right? Like, hey, like, is this actually you?
because it was just memes. He was just posting memes about other players in the league constantly.
Yeah, and then he like dropped like a clue, like he was sitting on like an airplane, and you saw his like Gucci sneakers or something, and it was just like that was nuts.
And then so that year, right after they trade Luongo, and you become the starting goaltender for the Vancouver Canucks, and now there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, and I feel like goalies get a weird rap because of that pressure of being the starting goalie. They get labeled as weird. Would you say you classify yourself as one of the weird goalies that keep themselves very quiet, have all these rituals, and like have to like turn the doorknob 2 times right and then 2 times left, and like because that's literally the stereotype that goalies have.
Yeah, and that probably comes from like the Slapshot movie, right? but no, I when you ask my teammates, they would definitely not like describe me as like the quiet one or like the one that has a lot of things before games that he has to do. But I think my old teammates would still probably label me as weird still. So I'm like probably somewhere in the middle.
So were you ever the DJ of the locker room, or
Yeah,
did
it
they
was
never?
actually my so I think Kessler was the DJ first, and then when he got traded, like me and Cassian, I think took over that kind of together. So yeah, I loved getting the boys going before a game.
So we're a music-friendly podcast. What is your go-to to get fired up? Was your go-to to get fired up before a game?
So there was like a lot of house music or like mixed house music, rap. Like we, as you know, there's a lot of players on a team, right? So you have like 23, 24 different taste in music. So you kind of try to mix in like a little bit of everything.
That's awesome. So that year when you were the starter, this is a question I got from somebody that fan, and they wanted to know what happened when you got called out by Quick. He waved you down during the scrum where Henrik ran Quick and you went to center ice, and he said you would have beat the wheels off of him. Why didn't you fight him?
So I think it's funny that people think that Quick waved me over, because I actually tried to wave him over. But so he was on Henrik, and I skated up to like the red line, and the boys on like the bench, they were like screaming like, go for it. And then Willie Desjardins, that was our coach at the time, I like looked at him, and he was screaming like, get back in your net, like, get back, because like obviously I would have got kicked out of the game then, and like that was like a really important game for us to make like the playoffs and everything, and I think it was 1-1 at that time or something. So yeah, I listened to my coach, but just thinking back at it, I probably should have went for it, even though Jonathan Quick probably would have killed me.
Have you ever been in a fight as a goaltender?
I'm a Swedish goalie. Like there's like one of us that's like nuts enough to like fight, and that's Robin Leonard, and he just picks fights everywhere.
So I I wanted to ask you about your mask. So do you have many different masks? Do you repaint over the same mask, or is everyone like? Do you keep them all and they're all in like a room on a shelf? Like, are
Yeah,
you?
I kept all of my masks. They're all at my dad's back home in Sweden, and yeah, we don't paint over it. We just get new ones, and I have like if I guess I have like 5 Vancouver masks, probably like 4 or 5 from the miners there. Probably have like 3 or 4 Carolina, then 2 Calgary and 2 Jersey, I think. So yeah, I have a lot.
So you on your mask, you generally had your father on one side, and I want to know why you had the Swedish chef from the Muppets on the other side.
So that was just kind of like a fun thing, and we when I had my first hip surgery, my mom and my grandma came over to Chicago to take care of me and everything while I was on crutches and doing rehab and everything. So my grandma was like the chef, and she was always in like the kitchen and everything, and she talked to us from like a distance, and like we could never hear what she was saying, so we always joked that she sounded like the Swedish chef, like Berkey, 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 Berkey. So yeah, we that's where I got the idea to put the Swedish chef on there.
Now, do you like to cook? Is that something that you enjoy doing? Is that one of your hobbies, you would say? Is that another reason why it's there?
Yeah, so I like to cook a lot, especially like I moved out of my parents' house to go and live by myself when I was 17. So I had to kind of just like go with the flow and learn to cook, right? But then the older I got, the more fun I I thought it was to like try new recipes and everything like that. And especially when you play hockey too, you have like so much extra time. Like you practice in like the morning, and then you're like, oh, my only thing I got to think about is like, what am I gonna have for dinner, or like what video game am I gonna play, right? So back then I had a lot more time, and it was a lot more fun. Not now. I don't have any time, so I let my wife do the cooking.
Do you have any like superstition? Like I know a lot of athletes have superstitions, things they always have to do before a game or always have to do during playoffs or what have you, like wear your socks backwards or on your head, or I don't know. Do you have any superstitions that you follow?
So I had like a ton growing up and everything, and like then once I made it pro, it was more like I figured that I didn't want stuff like that to come like and ruin my game before I even step my foot on the ice, right? So I the older I got, the more I realized and stuff that like the stuff that I do before is great for preparations and everything, but once like I step on the ice, those things don't really matter at all, right? So I kind of just shift my mindset like a little bit, but yeah, when I was younger, I had everything you can think of, like putting the skate on first, or like I used to not like that my chest protector was like a little bit crusty, so I used to like put all my gear through like the shower and everything before, and it was like soaking wet like before the game even, right? But that was just one of these things that I had like set in my mind, like it has to be this way, right?
Right.
So you're a goalie that moved around a lot from team to team. Is it hard, like having to move every time you get traded? Because you were with a bunch of minor teams and then a bunch of NHL teams. How is that adjustment having to move to a different place? And were you married at that time? Was it hard on like your wife having to go to a new city and all that?
Yeah, I mean, I wish that I would just stay in Vancouver my whole career, right? And just to be good enough to be able to get like the long-term deal and like the security and everything. But I feel like I was like just there, but I wasn't good enough, right? So that's like the backside of hockey. I mean, you like move and you get new friends and like you get settled and get comfortable in like one spot, and like then all of a sudden, oh well, it's time to move, right? So my wife's been like been like a rock star throughout this whole thing, and that was like one of the reasons why we settled down in Arizona now, because like she's been just following me around for the last 8-9 years, and now I basically just wanted to let her decide where we were gonna start our next life.
For me, a lot of people when they hear your name, they think immediately about the Canucks. But for me, every time I hear your name, I think of your stick save you made when you're in Carolina against Calgary. That forever is like the greatest save. Like for me, that's what sticks out. And like going through like how did the boys respond to like when you make a big save like that? How do they like? Are they like in awe that you made that save as well, or are they like?
Oh, it's great. Like especially being on like a team where like you're together for that long a period and there's so many games, you're grinding so much together, right? Like that's what makes it fun, and just to be happy for each other when like one guy score or there's like a big save or like a big hit and everything like that. Like like especially with the NHL season, there's times where you just go through like the motions and you go through the grind. So like those are like small sparks and stuff that you're looking for to get yourself going inside the games.
So you announced your retirement this past spring from active goaltending, but you are currently a goaltending coach at Arizona State. How has that been treating you, the transition to becoming a coach now?
Good. I mean, the ASU gig is just kind of a thing for me to just give back a little bit while I'm just staying within the game, and I'm not just full blown quitting right away, right? Like I really enjoy still being part of like a team and being part of the guys, and like the coaching staff and like the staff around the team is all great too. So yeah, I mean, that program is just like a really like young up and coming program. So yeah, it's been a fun journey so far.
Well, yeah, and I can understand wanting to be part of the team because you're 32 still, right? So was it
Yeah.
injuries that forced you to retire, or was it just like a passion thing? It was just wasn't quite
No,
there anymore.
I and so I had my second hip surgery a year and a half ago now, and I basically just told myself that if I'm not 100%, I'm not gonna come back, and I mean that injury was bugging me for like 5 or 6 years, right? And like I don't think that I played like even one game in the NHL without feeling like hip nagging pain or anything like that. So yeah, I was just tired of it.
So you mentioned earlier on that your main focus or worry was what game you're going to play. Now you came into the league right in that transition where it was the old boys club where you were going out drinking every night and go to where people were starting to stay in their hotel and play games more. And that kind of was on the precipice of that 2010 era. Were are you one of the gamer types? You said you like playing games. What do you play? What are you playing right now?
So I'm not playing a lot right now because I don't really have time. But back then I played a lot of FIFA, Call of Duty. Once Fortnite came out, I like played a lot of Fortnite because it was like nice to just like being able to like talk to your friends from back home and like do something while you're talking, right? So yeah. The gaming industry has like really come a long way, especially these last 10 years, I feel like.
Was there any like, because you were on that younger side where the older veterans were going out and doing things, you were staying back. Was there any animosity towards you not wanting to be like those kinds of players that went out every night to party and you wanted to stay in and be rested and play games instead?
No, like I feel like I was one of those guys that could do both too, and I didn't bring like the game or like the road or anything like that. like it was more like if you had time at home, like, and it was like a practice day or something, but I didn't game as much as like the younger guys do these days.
Well, now they can bring their Switch around with them.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah, I think that there's like a time and a place for it, and I do think that it can be good for team building and everything like that too, but you kind of have to put like a limit on it, I think, and just game like an hour or two a day, I think.
So I have a couple more questions, and we're gonna get to some of the fan questions.
Yeah.
Your new venture, you're now doing you're doing real estate. How's that? How did you transition into doing that? And did you sell Paul Bissonnette his house?
No, I did not sell Paul his house. Real estate is just something that I've always been interested in, and been doing it as an investment, and my family's been doing it growing up and everything. So I kind of been around it my whole life, and I just wanted to start my own thing down here and like not move back to cold Sweden.
So when you were in Winnipeg, that was no problem for you because you were used to Sweden. Other people when they get sent to Winnipeg when they're from Florida or whatever, they're in for a culture shock.
Winterpeg.
So I'm gonna go to some fan questions. Do you have any questions, Chris?
I do not.
Okay, that's all right. So, what is some of your fondest memories of the Canucks?
Just the time that we made like the playoffs, that was super cool. Like I mean, just sorry, my dog is getting in here. Hi, yeah, I know. I know.
We're a dog-friendly podcast. It's okay.
Yeah. Just like being able to play in like the NHL, and I had like my first NHL game, like first win, like first shutout and everything, and like just fulfilling my dream of playing NHL hockey there, like, and all like the great people and the great friends and everyone that I met like in and around the game, like that's like memories and stuff that I'm gonna cherish for the rest of my life.
Just a little side note off that. My father-in-law is from Vancouver, and he was at your game where you got your first shutout, and he thought that was a cool little tidbit that when I was going to get to talk to you that he
Against
got to experience that
Carolina.
with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another fan question is: there's been a lot of crazy stories about you off the ice. What are some of the true? Some are true, some are not. What's the craziest story you've ever heard about yourself that you said that's not true?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I think this is like a pretty funny story now because I'm grown up and I'm married and everything. But when I was playing in Leksand in the Swedish second division, there was like a blog post that came out about me, and the story was about this girl going into the ladies' bathroom at the club, and she heard girls talking, and they're like, one girl said, "Well, I just made out with Eddie Läck," and then the other girl said, "Well, that's good for you, but I made out with the goalie for Leksand." And then the third girl came and said, "You idiots, it's the same person, and he made out with me too."
So was that one that was false, or was that one that was true?
It was false. It was 100% false.
And just a couple more questions here. Who was your favorite on the road roommate? Like when you're on the road, you normally get paired up. Who was the guy that you just loved being on the road with?
So I only had one roommate because once so the rules are in the NHL that only players on their first contracts are having roommates, and I was on my second contract once I came up, right? So I never had a roomie in the NHL. In the AHL, I roomed with Bill Swat for my 3 years there, and yeah, that was great.
And then the last question I got here is, what was your favorite city to go play in, and why? Aside from the hockey aspect, what was your favorite city to go to, just for the culture, for the whatever reason it may be?
For just like culture and stuff, like I loved going to like California and Florida and those places because during the winter they were like warm, and I got a little bit of sun, right? For just hockey purposes, it was fun whenever I got to play in Chicago, because like when I played for Vancouver's farm team, we were in Chicago too, right? And that's where I met my wife, and I have a ton of friends from there. My wife's family is still there, so whenever I got to play there, I always had like a ton of like family and friends watching me in like the stands and everything. So yeah, that was always fun.
Well, that is all the questions that I've got, and I think that's all that you've got, Chris, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So
except for that weird one about Pop-Tarts, and I don't get it.
Yeah, we can't figure
None
out
of us
why
understand that.
wanted to know about
I don't
you
know
thinking.
either.
So thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Eddie. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Welcome back. And wow, Eddie Läck is a awesome dude. First of all, great guy, and even better interview. The story about the blog from Sweden, hilarious.
And just chatting about Luongo, just everything. I really enjoyed the interview with Eddie. I thought it was fantastic. And this is actually the first time we've done a show, and I'm pointing this out real quick. First time we've done the podcast where we're doing everything linear. We actually did our start. We've done our interview, and now we're going right into our finale finish, which is pretty fantastic. It's weird for me. It's going to be a lot less work than last week's. Last week's was so much work.
Oh yes, well, there was a lot of curses that needed to be bleeped out of that one. But no, Eddie was great. I loved having him on. And if you want to follow him on Instagram and follow his real estate adventures, it's Eddie Läck Real Estate on Instagram. He also has a webpage, www.eddielack.com. And man, some of the houses he's got for sale are beautiful. And
the housing market in Arizona is insane. Some of the places there are just gorgeous. My father lives there for half the year, so it's I hear all about it a lot.
So what a great interview, great guy. It was awesome how down to earth and chill he was, and it was just great to just sit and just chit chat with him for the past 30 minutes.
100%. I really enjoyed it. I'm, as we know, I'm not the sports guy on the show, and I just thought it was, some of the stories he told us were just fascinating. I thought it was great.
It's awesome to see people who have reached such heights in like a career standpoint or in sports and are so humble.
Yeah.
Because like I always heard the adage, don't meet your heroes, and like I watched this guy growing up, so like I wouldn't say like everyone we've talked to are my heroes, but they're like the on the bench boys, their drive, like that's like something I admire, so it's a hero-ish trait. Great guys. Eddie Läck, his humbleness, like I admire that. That's a hero-ish trait. All these people we've talked to, the Stanfields, how just down to earth and like rooted they are, is just like all the people we've talked to, I have not left disappointed.
Reminding everybody as well, that interview was brought to you by Savarina PR. Yeah.
Savarina PR and 44 Concierge. We have to make something to put at the start of that, but Chris, that's your job. But that was brought to be Savarina, our first ever guest, was able to hook us up, and what an awesome hookup that was. It was great. Eddie Läck, true great guy. Go follow him on social media. If you're looking for a house in the Scottsdale area, he's your man.
Yeah, absolutely. Joshua,
do you know what time of day it is?
Oh, well, it's time for us to get brown and sticky.
Brown and sticky. So getting brown and sticky, for those of you who are first-time listeners, go back and listen to episode 1 and work your way forward. But you made it this far, so we're going to tell you. Brown and sticky is a dad joke. The answer's a stick. Yeah. Or if you're me last week, I said, what's wet and sticky? It was a wet stick.
There.
So I have...
I'm very excited for
our joke. You're not going to be that excited because you're the one that sent it to me.
All I know is it's going to be good then.
So, Chris, come December, we're already saying we cannot allow this year to end. But that would be admitting 2021.
That's right. I love it. So good.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, goodbye. I don't know.
Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, whatever. Make sure you subscribe. Share us with all your friends. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, share us. Can when you say share, can you put like a soundbite of Cher just belting like, is this even her? Do you believe in life after love?
See, I don't have to do it now.
There we go. So share, dad joke right there. Share us.
You'll get there. Don't worry.
So also we didn't get around to it last week. Last week was crazy. There'll be a giveaway posted by now that you've already seen on the podcast, because you're listening to this Friday, and during this week we will have a giveaway posted before this episode comes out. So go to our Facebook page, and so you're gonna have to like the post, like our page, and comment to friends with your best hockey chirp, and you will receive, one of you, not all of you, but one of you will receive a copy of the On the Bench Boys book.
It's very exciting.
It's a great book teaching you the fundamentals of hockey. We've been really sports driven lately.
Yeah, the fundies.
The fundies. We've been really sports driven lately, and I'm finding my groove. I think you're slowly picking up stuff. Oh, I wanted to talk about one crazy thing I forgot in my story section. We're gonna put it in right here, right now. You thought we were leaving. We're not. I want to talk real quick about hockey and the draft lottery. Chris, do you know how the draft lottery works?
I assume you buy a ticket and you scratch it, and then
you get draft beer. No,
somebody wins Wayne Gretzky.
No. Well, yes. Well, you're kind of right. So the draft lottery is how they decide who gets the first overall pick in the NHL. And this year, with the whole pandemic, the season was wonky, and now they're doing the best 24 teams in the league got into the playoff bracket this year, which is not normal. It's normally, math, 3, 3, 3, 3, so 9, and then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 teams. The top 14 teams make it into, 12, 14, 15, 16. Top 16. Math. Failed grade 10. All right. Top 16 teams make it. This year it's 24. One of those teams could have the opportunity to win the draft lottery, and that's what happened this year. So there was like a 2.2% chance that a team that made the playoffs was going to get a chance to have number one pick overall, and that has come true. So you have now all these teams, literally 2% chance. Like the odds of winning the lottery is very similar to.
Well, if we've learned anything from American politics, 2% is the new 94%. So.
All right, folks. Anyway, so cool little story about hockey for those that don't know about hockey. Chris, I wanted to teach you something because we didn't get taught anything. I just taught you about the hockey draft. We didn't get him to teach us anything.
We forgot to get him to teach us something.
It's okay. I just taught you something. I just blew your mind. I also did a Cher impression. So I'm going to leave that with you. Do you believe in life after love? Like and subscribe. Get it? I shared, liked, and subscribed.
That's it. I'm leaving.
Goodbye.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Talk to you next week.
This has been a TPC Network podcast. For more shows like this, go to tpcnetwork.com/podcasts.
I'm going to stop recording now.
Yeah.